Last week was kind of a nightmare. We did our episode as normal, but just was a comedy of errors, man. Like everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and so we're just gonna do it again. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing pretty great. How are you, Kurt?
I'm living my best life right now, just trying to get through, going to work, staying home, watching a ton of movies and TV shows. I'm almost finished with Breaking Bad finally.
Fuck yes.
Yes. What are you doing with your quarantine time?
I found the original Resident Evil game for $5 on PlayStation, so I am going through that one.
I love that you're still on the Resident Evil train, my friend. That makes me so happy.
It's definitely like super interesting and whatnot.
Yeah, like each game is so different. If you're going for like a cohesive series, you're not going to find that here at all, but it's always fun to like go into a new Resident Evil game not really knowing what to expect.
Oh yeah, because each one of them is like vastly different from the last one in completely like outlandish ways. So you're just like sitting there like, all right, how's this one gonna look? And it's even like it's not even just like the actual game itself, it's the dynamics of the game,
Mhm.
how they look and how like you interact with the environment. Because like one game you have one play style and then the next game is something drastically different.
Yep. And if you carry over like play styles from one game to the other, you're just gonna have a bad time. Especially like Resident Evil 5, that one is all like action, like you just run up and punch people. So going from like Resident Evil 2 where you're like, all right, I gotta keep my distance, save my ammo, like run away when I can, to this where you're just getting hoarded by mobs of zombies that you just gotta run up and knife them. Like it's a switch for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm excited to get there for sure.
Yes. So in other gaming news, The Last of Us 2 finally has a release date. Did you see that?
I did. It's May 29th, not March. It's not March anymore.
Yeah, it got pushed back to June now, I think. It's like June 19th.
Are they ever gonna give us a date?
I think this is the final date. I think it's ready. Did you see that most of the story leaked online? And are you
Yeah.
trying to avoid it as much as possible?
Yeah, I haven't really been on like I don't really get on social media much anyways. But like I haven't really been on too much of Reddit and I like haven't been on Twitter in a hot second. Have you had anything spoiled for you yet, Kurt?
No, I've stayed clear, luckily. Just trying to do my best, being super careful on like what I read on the internet. Because we got a long time still, and most of the story is out there, so I'm just like super cautious right now.
Hell yeah. So what's this week's movie, Kurt?
This week we're again talking about Into the Spider-Verse. Tried this last week, didn't go well. Here we go again. This is my favorite animated movie for in quite a few years. I really love it. What do you think, Nick?
I love this movie. I think it's probably the best Spider-Man movie that has come out to date yet, personally.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. It's absolutely awesome. Um, it's definitely a different style. It's nice to see so many characters and like representations of Spider-Man from the comics come in instead of just the Peter Parker that we know from all these movies. It definitely breathes a breath of fresh air into the series.
Oh, for sure. Plus, like, I think the fact that it's animated gives it so much more freedom
Hmm.
to do what it wants to do, and I think that's the beauty in Spider-Man. And like, I think that animation is just as good, if not better, in some instances, and then we see that for sure in this movie. Something that Sony and Marvel have both been trying to do for years, and they finally were like, let's put out an animated movie, and they nailed it.
Yep, this movie would not work as a live action at all. And I think my favorite part is that it feels like you're watching a comic book. Like all the words popping up and just like little details that like pulling out and seeing the frames of the comic. Like this and Scott Pilgrim are the only times I've been like, yes, this is what it's like to watch a moving comic book.
Oh, for sure. And like that's the thing, like Scott Pilgrim was able to do that with a live action movie, which was impressive as hell.
Hmm.
But also like now, we finally have a great movie version of Spider-Man.
Hmm. And the animation style just really puts this movie over the top. The mixing of styles for each universe and just the colors and the way everything is graded, it's incredible.
So I know we tried to talk about this last time, but I'll go ahead and ask you again. So like, what is the difference between watching this movie in the theater as opposed to watching it at home?
This is definitely one that it pays to watch in the theater because it's kind of overwhelming at times. Just all the flashing and colors and just the pace of everything. When this movie moves, it is moving like nonstop. It's a full speed ahead. So it's definitely something that you need to see on the big screen as long as you don't have any like sensory sensitivity issues because this movie definitely should have a seizure warning on it.
Oh, absolutely. I was not like fully prepared for that. And then the intro to that movie, which I feel like they actually cut down
Mhm.
from the theater to the DVD for sure.
I think so.
Because I remember seeing it in theaters and I was like sitting there like, am I gonna have a seizure? Like I'm not even like prone to seizures, but like
Yeah, that flashing on the logo is it's a little much.
I think it was so beautifully done though. I
Hmm.
think it definitely like immediately immersed you into this universe, and I think the animation styles and everything like that were just like totally key in like adding elements to this, like for sure.
Hmm. And I guess for people who haven't seen the movie, we should kind of give some background. This is another Spider-Man origin story. It's the one you've seen, I don't know how many times, but with so many fresh takes and looks at it. This is the story of Miles Morales, who is living in the same universe as Peter Parker's Spider-Man, but he also gets powers. Peter Parker dies pretty early on, so I don't think that's a spoiler. And then the universe opens up, and all these spider people from all these different universes come into Miles' universe, and they have to kind of put things back to the way they came.
Oh, it's and that's just like a cut and dry version of what's going on in the
Yeah,
movie.
not too many spoilers.
No.
But really, the gold here are the characters. They are so well done, and they bring so much life to the story.
Oh, I mean, you have Spider Gwen, you have Spider Man Noir, played by Nicolas Cage. Like, just then you have John Mulaney as Spider Ham. You have Penny, who is basically Diva from Overwatch, if you're familiar with Overwatch at all, which I thought was super cool. I thought that character was super interesting in and of
Yeah.
itself.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if that character actually exists outside of this movie yet, or if there's plans to.
Hmm.
I was never familiar with.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one either. I'm a pretty big Spider-Man fan, and I think we'll get to that in a minute, like our history with Spider-Man, but yeah, I don't know that one for sure.
Because I know Spider Ham actually has his own like stuff now.
And Noir has his own stuff, and
Yeah.
Gwen has her own comic series, which I'm a huge fan of, or at least the early stuff. I kind of stopped reading comics.
Yeah, that's right. You did. Didn't you get the first edition of all those pretty much?
Yeah, so I was a big Gwen Stacy fan, so when I heard they were doing a Spider-Gwen series, I pre-ordered like as soon as they announced it, and I got the first run of that series, so that was pretty cool.
Is it autographed is the real question.
No. No, but the art style is incredible. I love it. It's just as good as like what they do in the movie. It's very neon. It's awesome.
I skimmed a few of the issues. I didn't get to like sit down and reread them, but like they definitely did a good job integrating that art style into the Spider-Verse for sure.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it's a very polarizing style. Like a lot of people are not fans of the animation style, but I think it just works so well.
We haven't even touched on Miles's character yet either.
Miles is incredible. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite spider people. Like I don't know if he's quite above Peter because I just have so much history with like Spider-Man as Peter Parker, but Miles is right there like on the same level.
Oh, for sure. Plus, like I think adding that element of diversity into a an already established major superhero
Hmm.
adds that much more like credibility and like
And it gives all these different Spider-Man and all this diversity. It gives different people like something to relate to. So we have Miles who has a black dad and a Hispanic mother. So that's like a whole new group of people you're bringing in, because that's what makes Spider-Man so special. Like for me growing up and for a lot of kids, he's just a normal kid who gets these powers and now he has to balance his life as a student, son, boyfriend, whatever, plus the powers and responsibility that he has, and spreading that out to be more relatable to more people is always a good thing.
oh for sure. Plus like I feel like the movie in and of itself with being in Brooklyn, I think it was way more of an accurate representation of like Brooklyn and the amount of diversity and all the different types of people as opposed to the other.
Oh, absolutely, especially the Raimi movies, the Sam Raimi movies. It was all like middle-aged white people on the trains that he was saving, and yeah.
Or old ladies like
Yeah, this is definitely a more accurate representation of Brooklyn today.
I don't feel like old people should be in New York. I don't feel like it's old people safe, honestly.
Look what happened to Uncle Ben, man.
I know. How many times?
Too many, too many.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Is that our first SpongeBob reference on the show? Because our friendship is built on SpongeBob references, and that's impressive if we made it 15 weeks without dropping one.
You know, Curtis, I think you're right. Am I gonna get sued now? Maybe.
I don't think they can copyright that. Don't think so.
Right. They would have never known it was a SpongeBob quote until I said it, unless you know me well enough.
That's
So,
funny.
what is your favorite scene in this movie, Kurt?
Oh, easily the leap of faith scene where he's building his own suit and then he like takes that leap that everything's been building up to. The music, which is incredible throughout the whole movie. Like everything just hits a high note right there and it gives me chills every time I see it.
Oh, the way that that just like plays out and it's animated and everything like that, along with What's Up Danger,
Mm.
like the song is playing, like it's just like every single time I watch that, like you said, like you get like chills, like it's so like emotionally like impactful.
Actually, we were talking about it during the podcast and I felt it so much that I made it my phone lock screen.
Oh my God. He loved.
Yep. You know it. It's such a great shot. What was your favorite scene?
I would have to say the leap of faith scene for sure. Um, there's definitely I like the scene down in the sewer a lot too, where he's with Uncle Aaron and they're doing the graffiti on the wall and whatnot. I don't know why, but that one like I thought that was such a cool scene.
That is a really great moment, especially when they're done and Aaron's like talking to him, and it was such
Yeah,
a sweet moment. Yeah.
uh, you know, I love the relationship between Uncle Aaron and Miles as well because you know like it's hinted throughout the movie that like there's something up with him, but like he still loves Miles. And then like that moment where he realizes like who's under the mask, he's like, oh, sorry, spoilers.
Yeah. No, we're good. Everybody has seen this movie or shouldn't be listening to this podcast. So there we go. Yeah, no, for sure. I love the way they did Uncle Aaron. It was perfect, and it's like the perfect replacement for Uncle Ben. Still giving it a fresh look, but still like that, like motivating factor that like pushes him to be who he is, being Miles.
Oh, for sure, man. So I think now is probably a good time to ask this question. Do you think they're gonna make a sequel, and if so, do you think it's gonna have the same impact?
I do think they're going to make a sequel. They hinted at it pretty heavily in the credits. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I'd be interested to see. This feels like a flash in the pan one-off thing for me, but I wouldn't mind seeing like all the universe's Venoms coming together, and then all the Spider-Men having to come together to take down all the Venoms, because I know you're a big Venom guy.
Oh, for
Wouldn't that be
sure.
incredible?
Oh, that would be so cool. God, I hope they don't get Topher Grace. Actually, no, get Topher Grace.
But make it like a big joke.
But like they already did in this movie,
Oh
which
yeah.
was take and like make fun of all like the little bits and pieces of like weird things that have happened in Spider-Man's whole entire.
Like everything. This movie is so self-aware. It makes fun of the ice cream, the cereal, the like songs, all the other movies. Like that whole intro is incredible, where it's recreating all the Sam Raimi Spider-Man moments.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, it was great. And I think it's even better because like what Sony made this movie, right, so they have all the rights to like all of that anyways.
Yep.
So that was just beautifully done, and like also like the element of humor in in this keeps it like going for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, the pacing in this movie is incredible. Like I was saying earlier, like when this movie moves, it moves. It's nonstop action. Like thinking back to the intro, which we need to get to, like how fast everything is. Like Miles, like walking down the street, rolling his suitcase, talking to people. Like the camera's constantly in motion, walking down the street with him. But then usually we get like a nice little break afterwards, like a talking scene, something to kind of like give us a breath so we're not overwhelmed, but then it's right back into the action and constantly moving. It's a perfectly paced film.
I would love to see how they animated this or how many different people they got to animate this because I feel like each style has like its own individual take on it and everything like that. And
Hmm. Oh, for
especially this.
sure.
Oh yeah, the scenes with the in when the dimension opens up and shit like that. I forget what it's called. It's like a canister type thing.
Mm.
But those were so cool and like they were almost 3D in parts.
Hmm. Yeah, this movie had to take forever to animate. It had to have taken forever.
I couldn't even imagine the render time on this.
So we have some familiar faces in this movie. Haley Steinfeld plays Spider Gwen, and we saw her a couple weeks ago on The Edge of 17. And then way back in our Moonlight episode, we had Mahershala Ali, who plays Uncle Aaron in this movie. So it's good to see them back on the show. Our first repeat actors.
I think another wasn't okay. I'd heard like multiple like rumors that Childish Gambino was actually supposed to play Miles.
Yeah, he really wanted to play Spider-Man, and he has played Miles in an animated series, I think. But he has a small cameo in this movie. So when Miles goes to visit Uncle Aaron on the TV, Uncle Aaron is like has on in the background is an episode of Community where Donald Glover's character wakes up in a full-on Spider-Man suit, and that just made my life because we were both really big Childish Gambino fans, and to see him getting some like love for his passion for Spider-Man was really awesome.
Oh, for sure, because I know Kendrick got to do the Black Panther album and it was incredible,
Mm,
absolutely incredible.
so
But I
good.
know that Gambino really wanted to do that one
Hmm.
and got turned down for it. And then he also wanted to be Spider-Man, and there's a whole campaign and whatnot for it and
Yeah.
everything. And
I want to see Donald Glover turn loose on the Marvel Universe. He wrote and started a Deadpool series, but it ended up getting like thrown out, and I'm really sad about that. But yeah, I would love to see what he would do with Marvel.
it would be interesting to read those for sure because like Deadpool is such like Deadpool is actually like my favorite superhero, like probably,
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
especially like the movies. Like I feel like this is an unpopular opinion, but I feel like a lot of the Marvel movies now has kind of become like a almost like cookie cutter s type thing, and I feel like
Hmm.
Deadpool like really took that along with this movie as well. And I hope that they integrate Deadpool into this one somehow because like the dynamic between Deadpool and Spider-Man is like
Yes, that's seriously one of my favorite like duos or team ups in the Marvel Universe. Is when Spidey and Deadpool get together. It's always a great time.
oh, it's beautiful. It's so good.
There's one series where Deadpool is determined to kill Peter Parker, and he teams up with Spider-Man, and he's telling him all this stuff about how he has to kill Peter, not knowing that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and it was the best thing I've ever read.
That's so beautiful. Deadpool never ceases to amaze me.
Right. So what should we talk about next? The soundtrack, because the soundtrack was incredible.
We have, oh my god, I still like, I don't usually like listen to movie soundtracks that often, but like I will go out of my way to find this movie soundtrack and listen to it over and over and over again. And like,
It has so many of our favorite people on it. It has Denzel Curry, Jaden. It has
Vince
um, Vince
Staples,
Staples. Love Vince Staples. Yeah, like it's nonstop.
Eminem.
Yeah. So this soundtrack was by Ludwig Göransson, who is actually Childish Gambino's like producer early on. He did the soundtrack for Community. That's how they met up, and then he like helped Donald become Childish. And then he does a lot of movies now, like the Creed soundtracks, all that. So he's a very, very impressive like producer for sure.
Oh, and also like I'm not a huge Post Malone fan by any means, but like I really like Sunflower a lot. I think it fit like really well into the movie, and it was just kind of like this like kind of like upbeat, like not necessarily goofy song, but like I think it encompasses like Miles's character very well for sure.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I'm not a big Post Malone fan either, but I definitely get down to that song when I hear it.
How could you not? It slaps so hard. This whole that whole like that whole soundtrack slaps so hard, like from beginning to end.
That soundtrack is just chef's kiss, man.
It really adds a whole different element to the like the movie as well, for sure.
Mm-hmm. It seems like the music drives the like motion of the movie too, which is really awesome.
It fits so well like with the animation and everything like that, and even though like and I think a lot of the songs were very specifically written for the movie
Mm-hmm.
for sure. But it it flows like so nicely.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So talking about Sunflower, that intro scene with Miles is the most relatable thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like instantly I relate with Miles because I've been in that situation, sitting in my room, totally zoned out from everything else going on, listening to music, trying to sing along, but I don't know the words. Like, I feel like so many people connect to that immediately and love that character, and that was genius.
Oh, I think he was a great representation of a 16-year-old for sure. Like, and you know, I think adding, I mean, not that I think Tom Holland is also a great Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
as well, for like a real life Spider-Man, and I think he was probably like the best real life Spider-Man you could find.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if you take Tom Holland and put him in the first Spider-Man with that Sam Raimi directed, it would have been perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because literally every other character and person they cast was perfect for that movie.
Yeah, 100%.
So I guess you know my next question is what is your ranking of the Spider-Man movies?
Okay, yeah. Um, yeah, I think about this one a lot. It pops up on Twitter a lot. So I think my ranking as of now changes all the time, but it's Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, um, probably after that is Far From Home and then Homecoming, and then Spider-Man, the original Sam Raimi, the two Amazing Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man 3 is at the very bottom.
We don't
We don't
talk
talk
about
about that
Spider-Man 3.
one.
Really? Okay, okay. What made you put Spider-Man 2 above Spider-Verse?
For me, it's just always been the like high bar for superhero movies. The way they handled Doc Ock, the way they handled the storyline with Peter trying to balance being Peter versus being Spider-Man. It just was hugely influential on like my love for Marvel growing up. Like that movie is the quintessential comic book movie for me. And some days, I feel like Into the Spider-Verse is 100% better, but it goes back and forth. And Spider-Man 2 is always going to be a classic.
All right.
What's your ranking, my friend?
You ready for Nick's ranking? Okay. I've
Bring
got
it on.
Spider-Verse. I've
Okay.
got the original Spider-Man by Sam Raimi. I have Spider-Man 2.
Mhm.
I have The Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming, Far From Home, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then Spider-Man 3 that we don't talk about.
Yeah, that one just doesn't exist. Go away.
Which, like, Sam Raimi literally just sabotaged that on his own. Like, he
Mhm.
did that on purpose because they wouldn't let him do what he wanted to. So, like, who knows? Like, Spider-Man 3 could have been, like, the best in the entire franchise. But,
Mhm.
like, we'll never know because,
Studio tried to control too much.
yep,
Yep. It's rare that a movie is made bad on purpose just to as like a screw you to the studio.
right. And that was definitely a screw you.
Yep. That one, I think the second Avengers movie too, Age of Ultron, that was made bad on purpose.
Was it? I didn't know it was made bad on purpose.
Yeah, because I think oh, what's his name? The guy that did the first one. Yeah, he
Joss
was
Whedon.
like, yeah, Joss Whedon. He was being
Yep.
like pushed out, and it was like, all right, write
Mm.
your way out of this one. Let's make the Hulk and Black Widow have this awkward relationship, and let's make, yeah,
I will never rewatch that movie because it was so bad.
so bad. It did give us Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch, which is like something I'm super thankful for.
Yeah,
She's
that was
awesome.
like the only redeemable part of that whole entire movie. But honestly, like everything else was just
Mhm.
complete trash. And I was like sitting there at the like midnight showing, like, are you serious? Like, and that's probably like a super unpopular opinion, and like, but that's also just like my opinion. I was like, wow, I can't. Like, you and I have both like pretty much always tried to go to the midnight showings of like every single Marvel movie that comes out, and that was the only one I walked out of, and I was like, I can't believe I just paid money to watch that.
Right. Yeah. Luckily, I saw Thor 2 for free, so I didn't have to have that problem, but it was still really bad.
I think we watched that together, didn't we?
I think so, yeah. I was working and I got off, so I just joined you in there.
Yep, yep. Oh yeah, I remember that for sure. All right, so here's my final question of the day. Okay, this is a personal one for you. I think you know exactly where I'm going with this. So, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
I didn't like my answer last week, and I didn't prepare myself again. I said flight last week because I could fly wherever I wanted and be there super fast. But I think invisibility would be pretty dope. I'm gonna go with invisibility today
Really? Okay. Why invisibility, Kurt?
because I can get out of all the awkward situations I don't want to be in. I'm not gonna do anything bad like steal money or anything. I just want to be able to disappear.
Like Invisigirl off of The Incredibles. Okay. I see you.
I
I
got that
see
violent
you.
energy. You had an interesting answer though. I want to hear yours again so people can hear it.
Okay, so I obviously like have quite a bit of a background in psychology, so I like to integrate that whenever I can. So like I thought a lot about superpowers, and I feel like we already have them like as a species. We just don't see them as superpowers. We see them as negative. I feel like I have depression, anxiety pretty bad, and I feel like they actually can allow you to do incredible things if you like think about it. People, it's statistically speaking, people who have depression actually view the world in a more realistic way. They're able to make more logical assessments. They're able to think, and they appreciate more of those happy moments, more like as opposed to somebody that doesn't have depression. I feel like anxiety as well, anxiety can do incredible things if you let it. People in the heat of the moment when they need it most can access that ability and can actually save lives. They can do, like, have you ever heard of those mothers that like something crazy is happening to their kid, something has fallen on their kid, and they are able to like lift up like way more than they should be able to, and like stuff like that. And I also I and that's just me thinking about it and whatnot. And a lot of people view like mental illness and everything like that as a detriment for sure. And I think one of the biggest ones that I personally think is just absolutely incredible as autism. And I've like met several people in my life that have autism as well, and they're all incredible. Super. Is that ESPN?
Yeah.
Did you get
Sorry.
the ESPN? Is there a 30% chance it's going to rain today, Kurt?
There's a 50% chance it's already raining.
Oh shit. But yeah, I think overall, like we already have superpowers as a society. It's whether or not we want to look at them like that for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of comics are kind of moving towards that. I've seen a lot of, I don't read comics anymore, but a lot of characters that are popping up that like have um, mental disabilities and illnesses like that. Yeah, and the X-Men even I think like at the time they were made more for racial disparities and differences, but you could definitely shift it into the realm of psychology too.
Oh, for sure. Especially now, considering like what's that new one that's supposed to come out that's probably never going to come out now?
Ooh, New Mutants.
Yeah,
I want to see
that
that so bad.
that looks like hella interesting, and I think that addresses a lot of the weird experiments that were done on mental patients back in like before the reform and everything like that, like all the insulin tests, all
Mhm.
the electroshock therapy, all the conversion therapy, all that stuff, which is
Mhm.
really like screwed up.
Right. And I think obviously we haven't seen it, but I think from what I've seen in the trailers, like the main like scary monsters, because this is kind of like a horror movie in a way, are like from the imagination of one of the mutants, like whatever she thinks about and fears like comes to life. So it's like going into that like aspect too.
That's so cool. I can't like I love some of the ways that like we're addressing superheroes now and whatnot, and even in like a lot of these like TV shows now too.
Hmm.
And we're getting more into the element of like mental illness and whatnot, and how it can be seen like more as a superpower and whatnot. I think that needs to happen for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Absolutely. So good answer, Nick. Feel like I'm on Family Feud now. Good answer. Good answer.
Let's see it on the board.
So what else should we hit on? Oh, the little pop culture changes. That's always an interesting thing that like there's so many things in this movie that just like add an extra layer of awesome to it and they all pile up to make it such an incredible movie. And this one the universe is obviously a little different, so there are like things that are very similar to our world but a little bit different. Like Steph Curry is a famous golfer and the album cover for Chance the Rapper's album coloring book has a 4 on the hat instead of a 3. Um,
It's a smart way to avoid copyright there for sure.
exactly, yes, and add a little bit of humor. From
Yep.
Shaun of the Dead is called From Dusk Till Shaun, which I thought was funny. Did you notice anything in there?
I just noticed Red X. There was a lot of like weird like little things. Was it PDNY instead of NYPD? I was like, why did they do that? I was like, oh, it's probably copyright stuff. But also adding that like little twist too, like it plays into the interdimensional thing for sure.
Absolutely. So that was a nice little touch. Um, yeah. What else did you have?
You know, Kurt, I think that's roughly about it. The only other thing, and I didn't get a chance to do my research for it because there's no possible way I can learn like quantum physics in a very short period of time, was I was gonna see how plausible it was for like parallel universes and whatnot, and what the science behind them was, because like I know a lot of uh, things that are big in pop culture right now during this time are actually like very focused on parallel universes and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
like this movie, and then Rick and Morty is huge right
Yep.
now.
Mm-hmm. I just
Eh,
finished Devs on Hulu, which is really big into that idea.
yeah, Like it's just about everywhere right now, and I feel like there's a couple other TV shows that I haven't like looked into yet that are probably surrounding parallel universe as well. So like it, I would love to learn more about that for sure. I have no knowledge about how plausible it is, but I think that would be interesting to look into for sure.
Hmm. And it gave us that idea, gave us one heck of a movie with all the different Spider-Man coming together and learning this, like, even though we're so different, we can connect and come together to fix this problem, you know. It has a lot of good messages within it.
Oh, the messages and themes of, like in this movie are great. I love this idea like diversity is a huge one for sure.
Hmm.
And then this idea of like for Miles personally becoming who he needs to be, but then this other element of like and this was a big one that I was gonna touch on and I forgot to put it in the first one. This idea of connectedness and not like I think it's like one of the first I wouldn't say the first because like we have the Avengers and whatnot, but like one of the first like origin movies where it's not just focused on a single entity taking on these responsibilities by themselves. They have other people to help.
Hmm. Yeah, the little ways this movie like conforms to the superhero like stereotypes and like cookie cutter, but also like adds something new and fresh to it is really incredible. They're like flirting with that line. It still stays loyal to all the people that want to like see a superhero movie, but it also gives something to people that are like tired of that genre right now.
Oh, for sure, because it's like you don't have to do this alone. There are definitely like other people out there like you. Like
Hmm.
you don't have to be the only one. I think that's a huge message for like
Hmm. And even if you feel like another one is, if you feel like you're not good enough, eventually you'll grow into it. You'll become that. Like Stan Lee says in the movie, everybody grows into it eventually.
oh, exactly. It's just like it's such like a well done movie and I think it's just so great for like all ages to watch and I've watched it several times and like I'm not huge on rewatching movies, but like I will absolutely rewatch this movie like
Hmm.
so many times
For sure.
for sure.
Because there's a lot to take in, so that makes sense.
And like I find like different like little things each time I watch it too.
Hmm. That definitely adds to the rewatchability. That's why I watch Scott Pilgrim so much.
Do you have anything else to add to this beautiful podcast, Kurt?
um, no, not really. Do you want to tell people to go watch What We Do in the Shadows, including me, because I still haven't done it?
Curtis, how many times am I gonna have to tell you to watch What We Do in the Shadows? Damn it!
I'll get there. I'll get there.
Maybe someday.
Today it's actually May 4th, so the last episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars is on, so I'm going to go catch up on that. I'm like 3 episodes behind, but I'll finish the series today.
You
And
got
then,
this.
yeah, we'll see what goes on from there.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on
Yeah.
this lovely podcast. This is take 2 of week 15. So thank you so much, Slow Glows, for letting us use your music as always. Curtis, you are beautiful.
As are you, my friend. Have a great week, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
I am